Welcome to the Richard Sherman Podcast. Hit that sub button if you're new. We're here to give you great NFL content. Please tune in.
Let's start in San Francisco because this team, they were up 23-10 at halftime. All looked great. Everything was going their way. Heck, until the 7-minute mark of the fourth quarter, they had an 85% chance of winning. Richard, the offense in the second half goes interception, turnover on downs, lost fumble, interception. What went wrong? Who do you point the blame at for the loss in this game?
There's a lot of people that deserve blame in this one. There are sometimes the offensive line, Brock Purdy with pressure in his face. Obviously, the last interception gets hit. Maybe he could have held it. Maybe he makes a better decision to hold it and just take the sack, but he's trying to make a play. He has George Kittle wide open right in front of him. The Jordan Mason fumble just feels like it's unexplainable, unfortunate. Like you fall them back, guy swipes at the ball, you squeeze it, you let the ball go. But just the red zone woes throughout this season have just been inexplicable. And really, it's been their Achilles heel. You could hear Tom Brady talking about it during the broadcast. Hey, you in these little battles, throughout the game, holding them to 3 points from the 6-yard line, holding them to 3 points. Like you win those battles, that's 4 points off the board. That's 4 points off the board in the first half. And those end up being huge points, especially in a game you lose by 1 point. Now, it was a really hot game, the hottest at Levi Stadium, but both teams have to deal with the heat. It's not like Arizona is a hot weather team and they play in an indoor stadium. It's hot in Arizona, but they play indoor. This offense just never really got in rhythm. You look, and Brock Purdy went 19-35 for 244, but he had the 2 interceptions, and both of them were off-tip passes. But it just felt weird. It felt off. This game, he did have the 1 touchdown to George Kittle that looked really good. It looked really good drive, pushed the ball down the field. But the first drive of the game, Kyler Murray goes out there and is pointing 45 yards away from the end zone that he's about to score. And, it looked like that. He had a lane, has tremendous speed, beat everybody, had 83 rushing yards in the game and a rushing touchdown, threw for 195. It just looked like they couldn't get to him. And this team looked very different than the team that lost by 28 points to the Washington Commanders. That team got dominated on both sides of the ball. This San Francisco 49ers team, I just don't really have the answers. You have too many turnovers. Brandon Ayuk had the best game of the season, but it's in a loss. Jordan Mason, 14 carries for 89 yards. It seems really solid. But again, the fourth quarter fumble is a huge reason why they lost this ball game. Then you talk about the kicker getting injured, and Moody gets injured, and you can't kick field goals in the game, so you have to go for it on 4th and 23. That's a ridiculous play, and it's nobody's fault. That's an injury. Again, there was a blocked field goal in the game. Diamador Lenore on his birthday, huge play. I was very happy to see that he can make that play. Elliott gets his hand up, blocks that field goal. But if you really think about it, and you take away that blocked field goal, they scored 16 points on the offensive side of the ball. That's unacceptable. And some of those points were set up by Nicholas John Bosa's interception return that brought them into field goal range. You have to get in the end zone. You have to. You got to score in the second half. You can't not score any points in the second half. They went scoreless. Mitchell, 14 unanswered points, and that's how you lose the game. You give Arizona a lot of credit. Let's not take anything away from them. This is a huge win for them. A bounce back game. Kyler Murray played well. James Conner played well. Michael Wilson had some big catches. Trey McBride had some big catches. Kazir White's interception, Mac Wilson's interception. Those are all huge plays in the game. But it's just felt like so many missed opportunities for the San Francisco 49ers and just uninspired play, at least offensively. I think defensively they battled. The heat probably warmed down at the end. But there was a time in the game where it just looked like James Conner was just having his way. And this Arizona offense was just downhill running 4 or 5 yards a clip. And you can't have that as an elite defense. You got to find a way to get stops. You got to find a way to put the fire out. You got to find a way to turn the ball over. And they did that with Nicholas John Bosa's interception, but you got to make more plays down the stretch. But I think this one falls on the offense. They didn't execute in the red zone. They settled for field goals way more often than they needed to. And that's, you don't deserve to win these games when that happens.
A couple things stood out for me. This is the first game I really looked at and said they could really use Christian McCaffrey right now.
Yes.
They need somebody that's a game breaker that can bail them out, because that second half offensively, they did not look like themselves whatsoever. On the defensive side of the ball, like you said, James Conner, I think he averaged 1.5 yards a carry in the first half. And in the second half, even when they were down multiple scores, Arizona just kept pounding the rock, because you know what? James Conner was productive. He had some big plays. He had some runs that were stopped at the line of scrimmage that he gained 6-7 yards on. San Francisco was getting bullied in that second half, Richard. And the end result, while shocking, Arizona deserved that to win that game based on how they played in that second half. And San Francisco, frankly, deserved to lose. And there was multiple people to blame. Another thing that stood out for me offensively, Brock Purdy is a slippery guy, and a lot of teams haven't been able to contain him. He's able to sneak out of the pocket and pick up on these plays. And we saw Naquan Jones, deliver a huge hit on that sack. And that was one of those plays like, the tide is really turned here if Arizona is bringing the pressure and getting to Purdy in a situation that he might otherwise have gotten out of. San Francisco, this is a wake-up call, Richard. They're 2-3. Where's your panic meter sit right now with this team?
My panic meter is
at a huge
10.
game.
It's at 11. It's at 11. It's panic mode, because these are two unacceptable division losses to the bottom dwellers of your division. This isn't a team that's, the Rams, you say, well, it's an awful loss, but you say Stafford, Stafford can get you sometimes, he has the ability, but still unacceptable loss with the amount of injuries they had and things like that. Then you're like, this team here just coming off a 28-point drubbing to the Washington Commanders and Jaden Daniels and Dan Quinn. And you're like, hey, we should be able to look at that tape and find answers and be able to win this game. But you're not. You're not winning this game, and you're the more talented team walking into the stadium each and every time. And you could talk about the injuries. You could talk about the heat. We can make excuses, but these are the games you got to dominate, and they're not dominating. I don't know what else to say. I don't really know. Thank God it's a short week. And they got us this Thursday in Seattle on Prime Video. Seattle's coming off a very tough loss as well, where they just, we're going to get to that game in a second, but it just doesn't look good. It didn't look good. Neither of these teams that are supposed to be the class of this division looked good today against very, very undermatched, overwhelmed teams that just, outcoached them, outplayed them, out-efforted them, outran them. It's tough. It's tough to watch. It was tough to watch this game, especially in the second half. In the first half, there were some bright moments, some good drives, some really good defensive plays. The blocked field goal was a huge play, especially with what's been going on with the special teams the first few games. But then everything else is falling apart. Brandon Ayuk finally gets to shine, but now we turn the ball over 3 times. It's like you fix one problem, something else breaks. And that seems to be the luck of the draw this season with the San Francisco 49ers.